Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jack Farmer, he's Andy Rossi, and this is the Evolution of Movie Show, and this year, we have a fun one. We also have fun guests. Before we bring them on, Andy, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jack.
Are you excited to talk about this episode?
I'm actually very excited about this one.
This is going to be an interesting one, and I knew it was going to be interesting, and that's why we got an interesting guest, a fella I've known for a very long time, but this is going to be our first real conversation, and his name is Dan VOLLMAYER. Dan, thank you so much for coming on the show.
I don't know what I just did with my hands there, but for our audio listeners, it was something cool. Let's just call it a clap. How you doing, guys?
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, man, I'm so excited to have you on. I first came across you when you were working with my good pal Evan Mack for WWE's The Bump, which was very fun. You were always entertaining there, but you have since gone on to do a bunch of other stuff as well, including you've got a movie you just finished shooting called Personal Day. I got to see a little behind the scenes stuff, and I am very excited about this. Why don't you explain what this short film is about?
Well, yeah. So it's a story about a 30-something-year-old guy that lives at home with his mother, which I can kind of relate to a little bit. No, I don't live at home with my mother, but he is still living in the golden era of death metal music. I guess you could say 1990s ish. So, yeah. Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit. I totally need to study up more on death metal because Limp Bizkit and Linkin Park were not that. But it is a guy
Slipknot, maybe?
Slipknot, there you go. Powerman 5000. Oh, let's go. What else we got?
Oh, yeah. This is what it's like when worlds collide.
Oh, my God. Yeah, Gwar, right? I think they were on a Beavis and Butthead soundtrack I had, back in the day.
Gwar's like the crown princes of all that.
Great videos, too, Gwar.
Yes. So as I've been told, a lot of inspiration came from that into the video that we put together. And
cool.
Basically very much like Bill and Ted in The Bogus Journey. They're trying to create a song that's going to change the world. That's kind of what my character is doing in this. His name's Raven Cross. I have seems like a gang sign to me, or a shadow bird puppet. But yeah, very excited. I have a legion of fans called Raven's Flock, and we think it's going to be something special. It very well may not be, but we had a lot of fun working on it. Shout out to Ted, a good friend of mine. Can't be that good of a friend because I had to write down the pronunciation of his last name. Ted Maniatakos. He's like Prince. We never call him by his last name. He's just a one-man guy, Ted. But yeah, we're excited for that to come out soon. So keep a lookout.
Yeah, I'm very eager to see it. And like I said, I saw some of the music video, and you being the lead singer in a death metal band sells me on the show already, sells me on the movie already. I am going to have to make sure I stay tuned to your social media so that I can see when this is released. Before I forget, what is your social media?
It is VOLLMAYER on fire, which it's nice to be able to say it out loud because I don't think people get the rhyme when you're just kind of reading it, but that was the intention.
VOLLMAYER on fire.
Yes.
Before we went live, we were talking about how John Mayer has just made life miserable for you, Dan, because of the pronunciation.
Yep. He's an MAYER guy, as am I. I obviously am stuck with a couple of other letters ahead of mine, which really makes it tough. But whenever I'm calling Verizon Fios looking to complain, my confidence shoots right down when they say Daniel VOLLMAYER. Is that correct? I'm like, no, VOLLMAYER. So
well, you've got the extra letters, but I've always said when it comes to names and letters, it's quantity over quality. So I think you got him beat.
I think that's the way that I should start looking at it. I think I've been looking at this all backwards.
I think
Ted's more bang for your buck with your last name.
Him and his John Mayer 5 letters, MAYE 5. That's right.
It's just lazy. Naming.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't even fit my last name on the back of a NFL jersey. Yeah. Not that I would ever get a custom jersey with my name on it.
That's the only reason you're not in the NFL.
That's the only reason. They didn't want to double line me.
Yeah.
Or in the NBA, the whole U and meets around the bottom of the numbers.
That is always great. I remember Biaka Batuka was an NFL player that the jersey, it was like it was like a circle on the back of his
Right,
jersey.
right.
He should have gotten the
Too
first
funny.
and the beginning and end of his last name tattooed on his arms, so it just continued, and you could just had it go straight across.
Yeah.
Right, right. Or go the opposite way. You could just, name his son a junior or the third. Here's where I don't get. Why do they put senior on the back of names? Because I get it that you have since become a senior because
Yeah.
you've named your child that, but that's not your name that you were born with. You kind of just came up with that later on in life. It seems like it is unnecessary.
It's the opposite of what I would do. I want to sound young. I would add a junior, even if it wasn't true. I would just say, "Oh, I'm a
Yeah.
junior. I'm very young."
Yes. So
The
you would have
fourth.
the J.R. Odell.
Yes.
Okay, so Beckham Jr. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
David Beckham Jr. I don't even think there is a David Beckham Sr. I think he just added junior, so we all go, he must be young. He's a junior.
Well, I was talking about Odell Beckham, but I never realized two amazing.
Wait, David
athletes-
Beckham Jr. No, you're right. I don't think David Beckham.
I was talking about
is a
Odell
junior.
Beckham.
I don't think they're related, Jack.
Well, I mean,
I mean,
I have an account on
Maybe.
Ancestry. On Ancestry with the premium, you can look at other people's families. I'll look into that.
Yeah, if you could do some research for us,
next episode we'll come back.
Writing it down now.
right? It's very
Where's the garbage can? No,
Yes.
yeah, written it down.
Well, let's chat about this movie. But before we do, I always like to let everyone know exactly what this show is about in case this happens to be their first time listening. It's basically we watch a movie, then we get together and we chat about it like it's a book club or something. But we call it the evolution of movies because we always watch a movie that came out 1 year after the last movie we watched. So we started in 1980, went to 1981, 1982. Now we're all the way up in 1999.
Wow.
Guys, this was a time when movie theaters had hits like Fight Club, American Beauty, and of course, Wild Wild West. But we aren't talking about any of those. We're
Yikes.
talking about Deep Blue Sea, a movie IMDb describes as searching for a cure to Alzheimer's disease. A group of scientists on an isolated research facility become the prey as a trio of intelligent sharks fight back. Dan, you're the guest on the show, so I have to ask you, had you seen Deep Blue Sea before? And what was your thoughts going into it this time around?
This was my first time getting into it. The only exposure that I had to even this movie being a movie was the LL Cool J, Deepest Blue. My hat is like a shark fin. Don't really know what that means. I know when I played Little League Baseball, when we were down like 20-0 and, rally caps backwards, then inside out, then we would go shark if we were really down, which I'm not going to show you what that looks like right now. But other than the hook, the lyrics are really good. I don't know if you've seen the video. He's got, I guess, what you call a fly fisherman's overall, where it goes up pretty high, no shirt, and the nipples are perfectly shown through, I guess, the attachments that connect the suspender to the pant. I don't know why I mentioned that part about the nipples.
I think it's the most important part.
I mean,
you're right.
Watch.
Think about, right. I mean, the movie was a success. Maybe it all hung on those lovely LL Cool J nipples. Well, that's a line for the promo right there when we do the sizzle reel after episode 200.
That's in the trailer. Yeah, but you talk about. I feel I don't want to go too far into the music video, but yeah, when he talks about my hat is like a shark fin, I always imagine a guy with just a hat with like a fake shark fin on it trying to talk tough to me. And it makes me laugh. The idea of it doesn't sound tough at all. You sound like a silly goose.
Yeah. No, I mean,
deep burn.
not to tie it to another LL movie, but I mean, in Any Given Sunday, they were the Miami Sharks. It's like that would be the foam hat that you would wear, to root on your team if you were just looking to blow money. I guess I don't know why you would really do that, but during this time, that was kind of a thing. If you were a hip hop star, and at the time, a lot of them were getting into acting, you would kind of sign on and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to do a music video for that too. I mean, you mentioned Wild Wild West earlier. There was a song with that. Will Smith, Men in Black.
Cisco was in a movie at some point. I can't remember which one it was though.
It wasn't Thong Song. If it was, I wouldn't mind seeing that movie now. I mean,
I would have definitely have gone and seen Thong Song if there was a movie.
I'm sure it's in the works. But those are really cool because it was almost like an extended trailer. You get this great B-roll for a music video. It's somewhat easy to do because you don't have to show a lot of the artist on camera because it's flooded, to use a water term, with visuals from the movie. So it's really, really kind of like an art that we don't really see anymore. I think maybe Lose Yourself from 8 Mile was maybe the last one that I can think of, but that put butts in some seats, I think.
We got to get Migos in a movie so they can make the new Three Musketeers movie starring Migos.
Just for the video, right?
Just for the video.
Oh my gosh.
Now, we play a little game here. It's a quick game, but I always like to see if Andy can guess the Rotten Tomatoes score for this movie. And then, Dan, you're going to guess if the actual score is higher or lower than what Andy predicts here. So, Andy, I want to know what you think this Rotten Tomatoes score is. This will be interesting.
Well, you always the movies you always have it compared to, like Wild Wild West, I think did terrible. I would guess Wild Wild West is probably in like the low 20s. This was better than that movie, but it wasn't much better. I'm gonna go. It had LL, it had Samuel L.
Lots of L's.
Lots of L's. I'm gonna go. This one got a 42%.
42. That'd make it one of the lower ranked movies we've done. Dan, do you think the actual score is higher or lower?
Well, Jack, I don't think you would be as reckless enough to have a movie with that low of a score on this fine podcast. So you said that this was the lowest potentially. I'm going to go, I think it's going to be a hair higher than that. Maybe 2 hair higher is my guess.
Rotten Tomato has it sitting at the oddly respectable number of 59%.
Wow.
Which has beating a number of movies that we've watched.
Wow. So here's a question, and maybe I'm just aloof when it comes to Rotten Tomatoes. Those scores, are they just based on reviews from the time, or is this reviews could still be coming in years after the fact that could, throw weight one way or the other depending on how it's aged?
I have done zero research. I just Google it.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think it's the time because I've gone in there before, and it's like the reviews from like the year the movie came out. But that's not to say, I mean, couldn't a reviewer just review it today? I don't know.
Right,
I don't know how it's monitored, but
I think at first they saw this one like, this isn't a very great movie, but is there anything deeper? No. Anything bluer? No.
Anything CE or
it's in the sea.
It's in the sea. So we've got to give it some love, and I think that's what made the difference here.
Wow.
Fun little fact: the reason I picked this movie to review. My family, my sister Hallie, she loves this movie, and she has wanted me to watch it for years. I've never seen it until this viewing, and I was very nervous because I was like, if this is a bad movie, I'm gonna have to disown my sister. I'm gonna never talk to her again. And so this was a very tense movie for me, and it was interesting. It was an interesting view.
So, Jack, my guess is that you love your sister. I mean, enough to know that this was her favorite movie. I think that this whole episode is going to be suspect. I think that you're going to be swayed into the positive. Is that a fair statement, or are you going to be able to call it down the middle?
Oh, I will call this one down the middle.
Okay. Bye, sister. See you at Thanksgiving.
I used to have a sister. No, this will be. I think this is actually a great one.
I felt very bad for a second there. I thought there was a lost family member. Oh boy. Okay, she's living and breathing.
Yeah. Well, for now, we've got. So thank you, by the way, to everyone who's listening. That includes my sister Hallie for listening to this
Hallie.
one. Thanks for all the likes, comments, shares, subscribes, 5-star reviews. You're all appreciated. Thank you so much. Let's talk about this movie, though. We start. A boat is at sea, a deep blue sea, and a couple of couples are fooling around when Jaws comes right through the center of the boat, and just before the shark can eat, Thomas Jane breaks the food chain and harpoons the shark. Meanwhile, a woman in LA is pitching her medical plan to give sharks human brains, and it's still less dangerous than the farmer rival Purdue's Oxycontin at the time. Samuel Jackson isn't having it, but the good doctor gets 48 hours to make it happen. So her and Sam Jackson fly to an island lab, and while on the trip, they talk about how Samuel Jackson saved some people in the Alps, but not all of them. When they get there, we see hunky Thomas Jane swimming with sharks, Michael Rappaport telling us the fences need to be higher, and a marine biologist who isn't George Costanza. Most importantly, we're told that there are 3 very large test sharks in the facility. Dan, tell us about this world we're going to live in and the characters that inhabit it.
Wow, there is a lot to unpack there. I thought you were going to open it up to the group after the first 4 sentences. I mean, number one, that boat, I looked it up. It was a catamaran. That has to be the most fun name for a boat.
It really is.
And so it was an attack on a catamaran. I know they showed the newspaper headline in the scene in the office, but it should have said catamaran attack. I mean, that would have just been a really smart way to go. But I mean, what's better than a makeout sesh on a catamaran? I've never experienced it. Andy, you look like the type of guy that's maybe been on a catamaran or once or twice. No,
Not yet.
But
there's still time, buddy.
So you're pulled into everyone kind of having a good time. You know what's going to happen, but just someone who always kind of really gets excited by the nostalgia. You see the Toshiba boombox kind of sitting on the side before it goes into the drink. I mean, I think it had a double cassette at the bottom so you could record. You got to hit like 5 buttons at the same time for it to record. But yeah, and what I don't know a whole lot about movie writing, but I don't think you write what's happening so much into the dialogue. I think one of the boys, one of the frat bros says, "Hey man, great party. Like, we see that you're having a nice time. Okay, there's some making out going on. There's a bikini. I think one might have been a one piece. I've obviously spent too much time trying to decide what type of bathing suits we're talking about.
We got to figure out what you would wear on a catamaran.
That's a very good question. I'd be showing a lot of skin. There we go. There.
I'm the guy that wears the whole bodysuit with flip-flops even when I'm walking around and I've got the snorkel on.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm definitely getting at the age where once I go back to like Action Park or Six Flags, I think I'm going to be the dad, wearing the T-shirt that's supposed to be in the water. I'm not going to wear like the big, T-shirt that I'm swimming around in, but it's all falling apart, man. It's all falling apart.
Right.
But
the sharks are the least dangerous thing.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. No sunburn for you.
Right. I've never been thrown out of a water park before just for, looking the way I am. But they're like, sure, sir, is that a T-shirt you're wearing? No, that's just a farmer's tan. But back to some better looking people, the foursome in this group here. I mean, I don't know what you do in that situation, but they fall in, and then I just get a kick out of. There's a little piece of rope that they're hanging on to. It must have been no thinner than a piece of floss cut down the middle, and they're just hanging on for dear life, like that's going to hold them, and really not doing much to climb up the floss. Maybe they knew that it was floss and it would break, so they just didn't want to get away from the boat. I don't know, but yeah, I guess. Correct me if I'm wrong, but no deaths in that opening scene. So a little bit of a teaser or a little bit of a swerve, because you would think, it'd be time to get the first kill.
Yeah, usually
I thought for
the
sure there'd be
opening
some
scene is
death.
a death. Yeah, Andy, tell us about how we were surprised that they survived, but also maybe it's just me, but even though he would have saved my life from being eaten by a shark, seeing Thomas Jane show up suddenly, I would have been like, creepy. Were you watching me the whole time?
Yes. Are you fishing with this shark and the shark's the bait and you're trying to kidnap me? I mean, it's
right.
It's wild.
Even though I had just had my life saved, my first thought, creepy.
And I guess
how long have you been here?
If you were trying to lure someone, you probably wouldn't use a shark. You'd probably throw a nice cute puppy dog into the water and then try and reel them in that way. Not a shark. Oh, cute guy. But yeah, and it's funny because they talk about in the movie how they don't know how it escaped. So, I mean, they just realized that it had been escaped, and then they're just going to search this big, massive, deep blue sea. And lucky enough, he gets there right in time. I guess that's the magic of the movie. It's just perfect timing, which we see a lot in this movie.
The thing that bugged me though the whole time that was how close. Dan kind of mentioned it, how close the radio was to the water. I'm like, that thing's going in. I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
The sea was calm that day. Don't even worry about
like,
it. But
it's like
is there?
That thing
2
probably
feet.
cost $300, and there's
know.
All right, like
It's
a
like inches,
kaboom box.
inches from the edge. It's like you could put that
Wow.
anywhere on that boat.
that thing looked like it had the
Seriously.
base feature too, where you could turn the base up on it. So
Oh, yeah.
very risky next to the edge of the boat.
What was your go-to setting? I mean, bass, treble. I would always go mid on the bass, but then go right into the treble. I
I
mean,
go big bass.
Yeah, I
depends
was.
on the speaker.
It would always sound terrible, but I always turn the bass up all the way, no matter what. Because I felt like even though it was a little boombox, like even if I had like one of the small ones, I'd turn the bass up all the way, and be like, yeah, some bass, even though there's like nothing.
You're right, right. There's no one at the party going, get that treble going, man. Like, no, it's all about the bass. So I can now understand why
That's what Meghan Trainor's whole message is. It's all about the bass.
Oh
and
my
She should have said it's all about the bass boost.
Yes, Andy, I want to ask you about this because we watch these movies week in and week out. This is a perfect movie. I call this the sounds like a terrible idea movie, where as soon as they pitch it, you're like, that sounds like a terrible idea, but here we go.
Yeah, I agree. It still makes no sense to me. I don't think I understand the movie, and I just watched it last night. But so they're helping people with Alzheimer's by using sharks' brains, right?
Yeah.
Cool. I'm just making sure I know what the movie's about.
I mean, the start of it is great. I mean, you have to get funding for this. You go in, hey, I have an idea to cure Alzheimer's. All right, this is going to be great. But look, here's the only thing. We need to find some sharks.
Wait, what?
And inject them with, and then it's like, all right, security, get this person out of here.
Is this two different movies?
She must have had a hell of a PowerPoint presapresentation to be able to sell that company on that idea, with like, animation coming on and off, sound effects. I mean, Samuel L. was throwing that cash around, like nobody's business.
That would have been the perfect like DVD bonus feature to see the PowerPoint presentation that she used to talk about putting human brains in sharks to help them. We're supposed to take her seriously, but this is one step away from them saying, and then we're going to put lasers on their head.
Yeah,
like a supervillain.
Yep.
That was on her list.
Where Dr. Evil might have got his ideas from. It's like, well, if it could cure Alzheimer's, maybe it could, have some laser beams on it. But yeah, that's such a crazy concept. And maybe there is a PowerPoint presentation out there. They all look to like the end of the table to see if like the big honcho Samuel L. agrees. And then he just nods and everyone's just like, oh yeah, it's the best idea I've ever heard in my life.
He's like, no, he was sleeping.
Yeah, right. Was that a nod? That was one of these nods.
Yeah. So we continue on, and this is what I call day one on the base. LL Cool J is cooking up some cake for a surprise birthday party while flirting with his parrot. Also, while Thomas Jane and Sam Jackson admit they both have a dark side. At the surprise party, everyone dances awkwardly, and Carter, that's Thomas Jane, tries to both flirt with McAllister and explain that the sharks are hunting in packs. The other doctors, whose names didn't really register at this point, explain how the shark's brains will stop the aging process in human brains as a storm makes its way to the base. But I'm sure that's irrelevant. Andy, this was there as they were explaining how the sharks work. It reminded me of our conversation about Jurassic Park and them explaining how the science works. And I want you to compare how Jurassic Park made it seem so feasible, but this made it seem so... Wait, what?
Oh, yeah. No, Jurassic Park did a wonderful job. They had like a little video you watch and you kind of go, I understand. This, I watched the whole movie. And like I just said, I still don't really get it. So I think they should have went back and been like, hey, maybe we should get like a little video going. Because it really doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know.
A little ride that you could hop on,
Yeah,
like,
I could have used that.
Disney's Tomorrowland. What's that one that spins? You go to a different decade every 10 seconds.
Carousel
That would have been
Progress.
nice, right? That's it.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah,
Guarantee that's probably not still there.
They definitely feels like they were missing a section where like of the explaining where they're like, yes, what you do is you take a shark and you look at its brain and then you cure Alzheimer's.
Oh. Wait.
We just take them at their word. I mean, we're going in blind. I'm guessing the scientific community are probably not big fans of these sorts of movies, so no one's going to really, call them out. And we just take them at their word. I mean, there could have been had a scientist saw that movie, there could have been quite a backlash if social media was what it was back
Wait,
then.
are you saying a lot of scientists didn't see this movie for research?
I'm sure there's a lot of people.
As someone who is an avid reader of World Science Digest, that's definitely not a real magazine. I was trying to come up with the one that's the real one.
Real Science Digest.
I was going to say, yeah, I read that too.
Oh, I think it's a
good.
quarterly. It's a quarterly, so it's it's not too difficult to stay up to date. But yeah, it's how like in doctors watch ER. That's not how they do it. No.
Yeah.
It's 1, 2, 3, then you clear. I don't know. But yeah, they must have really sat there and been like, I'm not even going to give an answer. We're not saving Alzheimer's from sharks. Not going to happen. Just isn't going to happen.
We're saving sharks from Alzheimer's.
And why does it have to be sharks? I mean, they're smart animals, but a lovely dolphin, I think, is smarter.
Yeah.
A little more friendly.
A koi fish, maybe?
A
goldfish
would have been great.
A goldfish.
A goldfish with a brain 5 times as big. It would still be a moron. It would still be a moron.
Pick the most dangerous animal.
Right. Yes. Right.
Why did you choose sharks? We ran out of bears.
Right. Too many maulings. We can hide the bodies better out in the ocean, so we'll just go out there.
Dan, this is where the movie and look, I'm overthinking this movie when I say this, but it's a gripe I have with certain movies that I bring up, so I have to be consistent here. This is where I feel like they start giving us a lot of information that means pretty much nothing throughout this. Like the fact that it's McAllister's birthday plays no part. The entire fact that they had a birthday scene was irrelevant to the entire movie.
The dancing you mentioned was worth it, though. It was very bad.
I mean, you get to see Janice from Sopranos with a couple of Glocks firing into the air. I mean, if that's what we got out of that party scene, give me that, 10 minutes of nothing just for that. I mean, that role probably. Let's see, Sopranos came out in, I think, 99.
Around this time.
So, yeah, she probably didn't have casting locked up yet. Her agent, forwarded the clip. Did they have email back then? Yes, they had email. And they were just like, Janice can hold 2 handguns and also be yelled at by her elderly mother in the, series Sopranos. Perfect. Let's do it.
That'd be great if that's how she got cast from Sopranos. We really like that girl with the 2 guns from Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
Did you see that?
They're getting cast and they're like, hey, but by the way, have you done any big stuff like movies or anything? Any reels you can send us from that? And you're like, I mean, yes, but do I send you this movie?
Well, it is a crime mafioso. I mean, I wouldn't send it if, she was, looking to do, reboot of Little House on the Prairie. Although that would have been an interesting take, if it had gunfire in that.
That's actually the sequel,
a great
Deep
idea.
Blue Prairie.
Yes. DTP.
We're putting human brains into guinea pigs or whatever. I don't know what lives in a prairie.
Prairie dogs.
Prairie dogs. That's a different movie.
Does all of Hollywood? Does Hollywood just listen to this podcast and come up with the next great ideas? Because I feel like we have a smorgasbord, aka 3, 2.5 pretty good ideas for movies.
Yeah, there's so much to build on here, but I do think now this is where they say the storm is coming, Dan, and I love movies like this where the sharks alone were a problem, right? And we hear that Samuel Jackson has gone through different things in his career where things are a problem. You have Thomas Jane warning us of a problem, and then you just throw on the storm. And I love it when movies like this just say, oh, you think it's bad now? Let's throw another layer on top of what you're about to get. And this was kind of that eye of the storm waiting for it all to happen.
All we needed was a volcano that was about to erupt, 2 leagues over. I think leagues is depth. I don't know what I'm talking about. I thought about looking up aquatic words. Didn't get past much the thinking part. I said,
if you thought about looking it up and didn't, you're perfect for the show. That's half of our research.
According to the ride at Disney, it's leagues under the sea. So I don't know if meters this way.
I think you're okay.
But yeah, you throw a storm in. I mean, why not? I mean, it just makes it more and more challenging. And again, we have lovely Janice, kind of giving us all the info that we need to know. And it tends to be a problem. You know, if it was a nice balmy 65, 70, you know, maybe we don't get as many viewers in.
Yeah. Well,
Definitely,
this is
definitely.
where, and this is where we get to the next part where I call it the things go wrong part. While Samuel L. Jackson is in the lab, they watch as the sharks attack Carter at the same time and recognize his gun before they take out the cameras. They're smart, but not that smart, as Carter's still able to trank one of them and get him into the wet lab. The doctors shove a big needle in it and drain some goop and put it on a brain chunk, and the experiment works. To celebrate, the shark eats the doctor's arm, and instead of killing the shark, McAllister releases it. In an effort to get the armless doctor help, a helicopter crashes into the lab, blowing up everyone, including the base operator, whose name never really came up. But that's not the end of it for the armless doctor and his terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day, as the shark uses him as a battering ram and breaking the glass and flooding the wet lab. Andy,
Wow.
this is that moment where everything goes from things could go pretty bad to things are looking pretty bad.
Yeah. I mean, for me, this is where the movie starts. I'm kind of not really paying attention until this part. I'm like, bring on the sharks. And they sure do. Yeah, it's madness. It's just so fun and ridiculous. Yeah. And when his when his arm gets bit off, you knew it was coming. They kept doing like a close up on him smoking that cigarette. And then,
Oh, right. It took the arm with the cigarette. You know, the
Yes.
shark had a nicotine addiction, and
Yeah.
it needed to get that one. It's like,
But
are
they kept
those
showing it.
Marble 28s? Let me get some of those right there. Where's the rest of the pack?
This whole thing was a misunderstanding. The shark just wanted to smoke. That's
Yeah.
all it really wanted.
And he should have just let him bum him. You know, I'm sure the shark
Yeah.
was like asking for days. Like, hey man, just one. You know, you got me down here. You're touching my brain. I could have just used a little something. But no, it cost him an arm.
Calm the shakes a little bit.
Cost
This is
him an
all
arm.
miscommunication.
Do you remember was the cut above or below the elbow? Because that's
It was
always a big
above.
difference. That's tough.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. That's a tough
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Because you could do from what I know, which is very little, when it's cut below the elbow, a lot more.
It'll grow back.
You get one. You get one extra thing to move with, even if it's just a little guy. You can do some things, but if it's above that, you flap it in the wind with the sleeveless arm just going out, not looking good.
Yeah, I love when I don't know why when his arm got bit, I cackled for some reason.
It was
cracked
so
me up.
funny.
I was like, and I almost was rooting for the shark. I was like, yeah, you got one.
Right,
for
right.
sure
You,
would
you
be, for
definitely
sure.
ride this line of, all right, these sharks are innately evil because they're trying to kill these humans, but they're only innately evil. And as I'm saying that, I don't think I even know what the word innately means. They
It is
are.
a word you throw around with. I don't actually
It
know the
sounds
word.
smart. It sounds smart. They are innately killing people because of what was done to them by the humans. So you really kind of, you know, you kind of go back and forth. I mean, maybe these sharks shouldn't have been treated as poorly as they were, but then again, it was done, you know, to save Alzheimer's. So really, there's not a lot of bullet holes in that
But they didn't know
storyline at all. Is it the perfect storyline? No, it's not. No, it's not.
Dan,
But they cover the rear ends a little bit in there.
you just hit on something. I was going to wait till the end, but you've touched on it. Let's get into it. The sharks are the good guys. They were kidnapped, put in a cage, and experimented on.
Yeah.
The humans are the evil ones.
Yep.
And that girl, Dr. Susan, she was breaking all sorts of protocol, if I'm not mistaken. Who put the protocol down? I would have loved to have known what that conversation went through. But she, we'll call it, no science terms here, she dialed up whatever she was doing to a dangerous amount, maybe making the brain bigger. And she, in many respects, is a villain. You know, it's tough to villainize someone who strips down to her bra and panties later on in the movie. You know, you certainly want to applaud that. I was hoping you guys would laugh. Instead, you're just sitting there nodding, which makes me look like a real creep.
Oh no, we'll get to it.
I want to save that.
That's
part.
not my hero. That's not my hero. And I was going to give her the benefit, but
right.
Yeah, she put her suit back on too quick. You know.
That's but it was but yeah, I was watching this whole movie. I was like, yeah, if these weren't sharks, if these were humans, we would call all the human characters absolute monsters in this movie. Like, especially one gets away in the beginning and gets harpooned and dragged back on a string. The humans were the bad guys. I was rooting for the sharks the whole time. The sharks
Absolutely.
did one thing that I could not agree with, and I will get to that in a little bit. But they did one thing that the sharks went too far.
There is one human that is not to blame, and that's LL Cool J. He was just cooking. He's a preacher. He's a chef. He's an animal lover with this bird. I mean, he's okay. He's okay in my book. I feel like he didn't really know what was going on with the sharks. He was just
he was taking a chef job, you know? I mean, I'm sure it's tough to get a job at Chili's or, you know, TGI Fridays. And he's like, you know what? Go out on a boat, be a chef, nice ovens. All right, let's do it. I mean,
if you're taking a job as a live-on chef on some water science island, I'm sure it's not you don't have your pick of the litter when it comes to chef jobs.
He's getting started. He's getting started, Jack. He was
Right.
in the ministry for a while. Now he's a chef.
I want to talk about LL Cool J. This is the part where I say things get wet. This is this part of the movie. LL Cool J and his parrot are walking around in the water, and the parrot just abandons him before LL Cool J gets washed away as water fills his floor. Meanwhile, the gang escapes some flooding of their own, and Carter explains that the sharks can get through steel doors, and McAllister admits she gave the sharks super smarts, even though it was against the rules. The submarine that they were going to use to get away is destroyed, and now they have to come up with a new game plan. Big L is able to blow up one of the sharks, but not before the shark eats Bird, causing me to scream out loud, "No!" And I don't really care about any of the other losers. I want justice for Bird. That's where the sharks went too far. I can't believe they ate Bird. This was...
Who doesn't love a foul-mouthed parrot? I mean, whether it's Iago in Aladdin or... Was it parrot in this movie? I mean, you know, you don't want to see that. You don't want to see that go down.
Losing this bird this early, to me, was on the same level of Drew Barrymore being killed in the first scene of Scream. Unacceptable.
It just seems like you're going to bring in a strong actor, a strong parrot actor, and you're paying some money, and maybe they just couldn't afford him. Although I went on Wikipedia, which, you know, they're never wrong with anything. Apparently, the studio could not afford the most talented parrot for the movie that could both talk and ride on someone's shoulder. So they had a separate bird for the shoulder ride and then a separate parrot for the talking.
They looked different.
So they said, yeah, right. Yeah. You really looked close. Is that a green moss color there versus a candy green?
This movie's so not believable.
Right. I read the closing credits. All right. There was a slash, you know, for that bird.
I hope the talking bird was like very pompous about it to the other bird. Like when you get on my level, other bird, and then smoked a cigarette.
I get the speaking lines. My per diem is through the roof compared to you. You're just wallpaper.
You're a glorified stand-in.
I mean, it's exactly what it is. Exactly. Oh man. But it was such a neat scene to see. I mean, we could talk about the water. I mean, that alone, I think we all think about, oh my gosh, what would we do in this situation? I don't know if you've ever tested how long you can hold your breath underwater. The last couple of days, I've been trying to test above water and have passed out a few times. And by the time I come to, I guess I should have stopped the clock once I passed out, but it seems like it's only about 3.5 minutes, but they go underwater as if they're, you know, as if they have gills that we just don't know about, right out of Waterworld. That one should be on this show, by the way. That's a great one.
Oh, I have a Waterworld reference coming up near the end. Don't you worry.
You know about the bird though.
He had a catamaran too. He had a catamaran. Sorry,
the bird did.
No,
catamaran is a great name. I want to like
in
when I DJ, I want to DJ as DJ Catamaran.
DJ Catamaran, yeah. And you arrive only in a catamaran. But
do you like boats, Jack? No.
Just the name. The name's
just like the name.
DJ Catamaran.
And easily. LL could have named the bird Catamaran. All this love for the bird, and I agree with you, but he couldn't even name him. Just Bird. Yeah, I just felt like that was just kind of the only thing I didn't like about LL.
I will allow you to mock anything on this show, Andy, but I will not have you slander Bird.
He deserved a name, is what I'm saying. I shouldn't just call you human. You're Jack. He deserved a name.
I'll be honest. I at one point owned a kitty cat that we named Kitty. So I
You're
think I
just
wanted to
as
name
bad
it.
as LL.
I think I wanted to name it Kit after one of the characters from
League of
um,
Their Own.
Good, but
Rider?
no, no. Wait a second. What was the Disney afternoon Tailspin? Wasn't the kid that used to like
Oh,
ride out on
Tail-
the back? Was he a
yeah.
Kit?
Oh
So
I
wow.
think
I
he
think
was
that's
Kit.
what it was.
Wow, you just
Wow,
unlocked a memory that I had forgotten
that was a
forever.
very good show, which it's so
Yeah.
funny. I mean, this tells you how self-absorbed I am. I'm just trying to make my kids watch the shows that I liked when I was a kid. So like I'm putting on Thundercats. I got
Oh yeah.
Ghostbusters going in there.
Oh,
They're like,
Nice.
we're looking for some better graphics here, Dad. I'm like, no, no, no. This was good right here.
do you ever
Um,
get to the point where you're like, this show's actually terrible, but I'm still gonna make you watch all of it because it's culture.
well,
Tailspin.
I'm probably the worst person to watch a movie with where I've seen it already and I'm trying to sell the other person. I'm getting black and blue at the elbow. Here it comes, buddy. Here it comes. I ruin it. People have walked out on me. I mean, it's just I get so excited about a movie and it's just I can't let them enjoy it. I want them to live it vicariously through me, and it always
I
ends up, they're walking out of some of the great movies of all time. What do you mean the Titanic goes down? Thanks, Dan. You're ruining the movie for me. Get out.
I'm
Wait,
guilty
what?
of being the guy that explains what we just saw, even if it's very clear what just happened. Like I'm the guy that's like, yeah, so he lit his cigarette, and then that same hand just got eaten by the shark. And yeah, Jack, we just watched that.
It seems like you'd be a welcomed member to any movie watching party. I mean, I think you need that because it reinforces what just happened. Some people can't, remember everything that's going on. You're
I would
making a
like
good
that, Jack.
point. I mean,
That's
you
why I
should
do this
be.
show. I literally just tell everyone what happened.
I mean, you should have a little 1-800 number. Hire you for parties. Hey, I'm a great guy to hang out with. I won't take a good spot on the couch, but I'll stand up and point out obvious things that someone else is going to say, maybe get laughed at, but you won't laugh at the guy that you're paying to be there.
I like that it's a
Money
1-800
stream,
number, so I
money
assume
stream.
it's still on like a corded phone that they dial.
Right.
It goes to a payphone.
Well, this is where people start dying. Skoggs wants to take the shaft, but that may or may not kill everybody. So they start fighting about it, and Sam Jackson says, look, I killed people before, and I'll do it again just before he finishes his rousing speech.
I just want to say, so from all we know about LL up to this point regarding this thing that happened in the Alps, I believe it was.
Yeah.
We just know that he had saved some people, but he just kind of under the carpet mentions that he might have eaten 2 people. Did I misunderstand that?
No big deal.
No, that's very much what
I
happened.
mean, I would have pushed him right into the pool, right into the
Right.
shark. It's like, no. We're going to die together before we start eating each other. I mean, we already know the kitchen's been destroyed. I know LL is a maestro with the chef, but I don't know if he knows how to cook.
A human.
And by the way, he says this right before he says, so listen to me.
Yeah.
I've eaten people that I was in bad situations with. You should listen to my advice.
A little bit
And
of
why
honey
don't you just
mustard.
take a dip in this teriyaki sauce for a little bit?
Yeah, right.
Just marinate for a little bit.
In the Alps, we had no seasoning. We have a full kitchen upstairs. I mean, I might have to eat 3 or 4 of you, to be honest.
Skoggs.
Oh, not as meaty as he is now. He was right, so much thinner than we're used to seeing him.
Yeah.
But not to cut you off. I mean, this was such a momentous moment, I think, because no one really saw that coming. I mean, am I wrong? I mean, I was getting ready for the Independence Day.
Big monologue.
We're coming together here. We're going to rally the troops, and then the floor drops out, and it's just like, well.
Yeah,
And
He shouldn't have been standing there, though.
I mean,
Yeah, I'm going to make a big
part,
monologue by the water.
My favorite part, though, too, is how the shark eats him in a way that feels like it defies physics. The way, like, it comes up, leans in, eats, and then just comes back down.
Yeah.
Like, it changes direction mid-air to eat him, and then just comes back down.
It's like the JFK, shooting. It's just like the magic bullet. How did it happen? The shark's snout went in front of him, grabbed him by the belt buckle, then down and then in, and it just happened so fast that and you assume that a big name like Samuel L. he's going to probably be there until the end, and nope, just gone like that. Makes me want to go back and better appreciate the amazing moments of Samuel L. riding in that chopper and asking too many questions.
Well, and
Here's
this
another
is where
thought.
No, go ahead.
So how did he know about who I'll call the Shark Wrangler? How did he know about his prison record? I know that the premise was, oh, you the man, huh? So what, he reads all the files? I mean, I know plenty of people that are the man. And, they just kind of hang out all day and, drink and party or fire people or count their money. He's deep diving into people's records. I mean, it just seemed like that was unexpected, but they had to squeeze in the fact that this was a guy that maybe you have to be a little bit weary of. He spent some time in the clink.
Well, that's where I go back to. Now, it didn't bother me because this is a nice short movie. I like that it was a nice hour and 40, perfect time for a movie. But there was so much stuff like Thomas Jane having spent time in prison didn't matter at all. Didn't play. It never really played into this movie. And even Samuel Jackson's whole thing about like I ate people didn't really matter because he died right after it happened. So they're all like, "Oh, you did some stuff in the Alps." It didn't really matter with the movie. Didn't
need it at all. I mean, it gives us talking points here, but I mean, I don't think they made the movie for us. Yeah, no, that's so funny. And I mean,
so much stuff in this movie that literally plays no part whatsoever.
What do we need to know? And I'm just repeating what you said, that he spent 2 years in jail. If they had shown him later on where he finds a safety deposit box and he's got the code and he's grabbing the cash and then he becomes the bad guy, then maybe it's worth mentioning. But if anything, it just sullies this guy who is the hero of this show and talks about his police rap. I think it did the character a disservice.
But what did matter is they did end up going up the shaft and the water starts to fill the room again.
Samuel L. movie with The Shaft. This was a precursor to him starring in The Shaft. I'm sure that's
where they got the idea, I think.
Yeah.
We were watching. Was Samuel Jackson a big deal in '99? Had he become like a superstar yet, or was he still kind of climbing his way up?
Pulp Fiction was like 94, 95, so.
Oh, so he had to have been a star.
He's a big deal.
And then just consistency after that. I mean, even some of his, I'll go on Netflix and just find things. And like, I just randomly had like 3 Samuel L. movies in a row. And it's just like, the guy brings it. I mean, I know he's phoning it in, but even, 20% of Samuel L. is still Samuel L. I mean, Jurassic Park, we talked about that. Everybody hang on to your butts as his cigarette butt is literally dangling down completely against all geometry. And then
like the shark against all geometry.
Yes.
Another cigarette. The shark would probably saw that movie. It's all interconnected. It's one universe.
They're all laughing. Was there a Velociraptor?
He got eaten in that one.
Smoking a Marlboro? Smoking a Marlboro in that one?
How many times has Samuel Jackson been eaten in a movie?
I mean, maybe that's his thing. I mean, maybe he is just trying to be a public advocate for the dangers of using mutagen or other pieces to make these crazy animals. I think that's what it is.
Well, after they climb up the shaft, the shark's chasing them. Carter opens a door, and at this point, I realize that I don't understand water physics at all. But by adding the water from the second floor, it stops filling water in the shaft. I don't know. Either way, the ladder breaks, and Jan, who we all knew was on borrowed time anyways, falls into the water and gets bit in the crotch and goes for a ride that would be too inhumane even for SeaWorld. Eventually, they're saved by LL Cool J, and they come up with a plan to drain the stairway. I did want to mention this. Andy, I think you'd appreciate this. This movie was made by the same people that made Cliffhanger. And there was a scene on the ladder that mirrored Cliffhanger where he's hanging upside down, reaching down.
Shot for shot. I mean, it was I guess it's okay to rip off yourself, but I mean, it was the same guy that made Cliffhanger, which I love Cliffhanger. I mean, amazing. But, the upside down scene, I mean, it was the same thing, only this guy got a chance to maybe save her, with that shark came up. It's like you got one shot, man. And it's so funny, even on her way down, it's just like, bro, come on, man. How could we not do this? Goodbye. I mean, just
Right.
unbelievable. I mean, I know you're not a trapeze artist, the one that doesn't do the swinging, but the one that's upside down doing the more of the muscle guy.
Could have put in a
But
little bit more effort, I think, to
I
grab
mean,
poor
maybe
Jan.
could have been distracted by the blood. I don't know, but
I'll be honest with you. If I was hanging upside down and I saw
Ugh.
the shark when you guys, I'd be like, ugh, I don't want it to get me. I'm gonna,
Ugh.
I'd alligator arm you a little bit too. I'd be like,
I would be straddling the
reach.
top of those rungs of the ladder, and still trying to, make it look like I'm trying, but I'm not going to drop an extra 9 feet to get closer. Can't do that. Can't do that.
I did
But-
notice. I just want to say during this scene with Jan, with Rappaport, with the doctor, with Thomas Jane, no one ever asks about LL Cool J. By the way, they're just like, I think they forgot he existed. And then even when he comes to save them, they don't go, "Hey, it's you." They're all just like,
oh yeah.
This
No
is very
embrace,
weird how no one
really,
really
just you-
talks about him. I'm wondering. I'm like, maybe in the
Bring anything
original
to eat?
script, maybe he wasn't in it when they just did reshoots. Right? We should add LL to this movie.
Wow.
You're right.
I mean,
That's a good point. No one cares about
No one
LL.
ever mentions him.
it's just like, what are you doing? I need a grilled cheese. Get back to work, LL. I mean, I know, maybe.
Literally
that's-
saves them, and they don't go like, "Thank you so much." They're just
How
like,
great would it be if they were like, hey, LL, where's Bird?
Get a little hungry here. Oh yeah, right. As he just slowly dives right into the water. He's like, you know what? The body count hasn't been high enough yet. Let me just throw myself in there. But I mean, LL, and I guess he's done this in several movies. And I hate to say it's an African American thing, but they would always have that guy there that was there to make the funny jokes. And I think without that, you lose a lot. I mean, it seems like you don't, but without that, it's a pretty sterile movie. I mean, you have those one-liners that just really work. I mean, I can remember just being so popular back in the day, and me just laughing, maybe for the wrong reasons now, but when he just says like, it's always the brother that gets eaten first. I mean, it's always been in the movies, in the horror movies. Why is it the black guy that always gets hit first? And he said it, and you're just like, I don't even know why I'm laughing, but if that's what he thinks, I'm going to go along with him, and I think it's okay for me to laugh along. I think.
I did think once he made that
joke,
joke,
did I just get canceled? Did I just cancel myself? I think I just canceled myself.
Possibly. I did think after he said it though, like now it'd be really messed up if he dies.
if they killed him, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Oh, right after.
Right after he says, "Yeah, it's always the brother." Ah!
Right.
See,
right.
I told you.
Right. Oh, the irony. Do you remember his last words? He goes, "It's always the brother that dies first," and that was it. Yeah. Smart man.
Did you also notice? I don't know if you caught this. I think the main love story in this movie was between Thomas Jane and Michael Rappaport. They had quite the little romance throughout They were just like, "I'll be there for you, man. Yeah, I'll be there for you too. Come down to the water with me. Yeah, you'll be there with me." They have all these kind of intimate scenes together.
And speaking of that, well, actually, that's
yes, agreed.
As we continue through, because I mention something about this too, but they're looking through Jan's stuff afterwards. As soon as she dies, they go to her room and they start just digging through her stuff. And McAllister tries to make us sympathize with her, and even though it's not working, Ladies Love Cool J talks about hot stoves and hot women, and then the gang splits up, which is always a smart move. LL Cool J makes the world's first TikTok video explaining how to make an omelet. Carter sees the one-armed doctor and screams about it before rerouting the power and watching Skoggs get eaten to death. And McAllister tries to get her research, but has to fight a shark with electricity, causing her to destroy everything she worked so hard for, and meaning this entire adventure was really for nothing. I want to talk a little bit about McAllister here. I don't like to talk about actors or anything like this, but was McAllister like a black hole of charisma in this movie? I felt like she had absolutely zero personality. She could have played a robot very well in this movie. Is that unfair for me to say?
It kind of seemed like a robot, the accent and everything. Yeah.
I mean, was she a dame back then? I mean, I'll be honest, I had to look her up a little bit, mostly photos, but I mean, I went to the IMDb and, I mean, tell me about her, because I thought that the one thing was that the movie, I know it had Samuel L., had LL, but like you didn't have that main megastar ingredient that I think could have, you know, lifted the whole picture. If it had a Bruce Willis, if it had a Schwarzenegger, if it had a, I don't know why Chris Tucker just popped into my head. But if it had a marquee
in '99,
name,
he was a megastar.
He was huge. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think he was required to only do movies with Jackie Chan for a short period of time, but I mean, he could have maybe had a, you know, lift of that agreement. But we really didn't have a main star, and so that role fell to Dr. Susan. And you're right. I hate to compare her to a robot, but you know, she was given a script, read the lines, moved her arms when it needed to, and got a paycheck. I mean, you know, what are you looking for? I mean,
we got to talk about her
you're not
electricity scene. We got to talk about so ridiculous because it's her, like Dan mentioned earlier. She's like, "Oh, I know what to do. I'll take my clothes off." This is so stupid, but so funny because it's probably like the director's like, "We do have one scene where
it probably wasn't even the director. It was one of the grips, just like, I think it makes perfect sense if she were to do. You know, we don't need to keep it in the final cut, but I think it's important that we just get the shot." And then, you know, send me the dailies. I'll hang on to them, make sure they don't get out. But then they make it in. But so the thinking there was that if she stood on her scuba gear, a very wet, moist, I hate that word, but it was that moist scuba gear, that would prevent the electrical current that's in the water from making its way up to her lower portions and then the rest.
That's correct, Dan. That's correct.
And we just go along with that.
Right.
She could just grab that rod of electricity soaking wet and she's fine.
Right. Well, see, you guys, I don't think it had anything to do with the electricity. I think she was thinking to herself, look, this male shark has a human brain. I know what's going to stop him in his tracks.
It worked.
Why would, I mean, that should have been it. I mean, that could have been your love story right there. I mean, if the shark is as smart as we are led to believe, I mean, it's doing all kinds of things 5 times the brain size. I mean, I believe that there are parts of the brain that affect one's sexual appetite. I'm sure that the sexual appetite increased by 5. And we're talking about interspecies dating. So
you just played like "Take My Breath Away."
Right?
It happens.
Right. All she had to do was do like one of these, and it would have been cool because then it's like, oh, now I get what she's doing. She's trying to lure him in with a little bit of that, excuse the word, titillating aspects of it. And then she got him. What a missed opportunity.
Right.
Because then it makes sense. Then it makes sense, albeit still ridiculous sense.
If it worked for Shrek, it can work for anybody, I think. But
so now, couldn't she have shoved the whole electrical rod into the water? Wouldn't that have been enough to kill the shark? Or is it really like a better death blow to get it in the mouth where and maybe it's more contained that way?
She is a doctor, so she knows these things. So
she knows how this all works. But
she understands.
At this point in the movie, I was definitely like, okay. But yeah, I didn't feel any, talking about the Skoggs and Carter connection, I didn't feel any, like when Carter was flirting with her early on, I was like, I feel zero chemistry between these two at all.
She wanted nothing to do with him. And, you know, if anything, you want a little bit of like a hint. I think she said, oh, maybe we'll get that beer sometime. And, you know, just very nonchalantly, like it's never going to happen. But I think the true love story was between, was that shark number 2 and Dr. Susan. I think a new trailer needed to be cut. Which would be very funny, actually.
I wanted to
take
mention
my breath away.
One more line, one line that was ridiculous with Michael Rappaport. They've already went through all this crazy stuff with sharks. People are getting eaten, and then Rappaport decides to make a joke to LL and says, "Hey, can you zip me up, please?" And he like zipped up his little suit.
I know.
Really, you're cracking jokes.
I mean, you know, I wonder if that was, improvised. I mean, I feel like just Rappaport, love him or hate him, that's just the stuff that he does. But you are right. I mean, it's funny we're talking about, an action monster thriller, and I've now identified 2 new love stories that could be anything further. Two gentlemen swimmers, I guess we could call them that. And then a lady in a
Wranglers.
Oh, pardon me. That looks good on a job
with
resume. I mean,
incredible lungs.
I don't know where he's gonna go from here, but Shark Wrangler. I would
I
just be
mean,
like, is that a name of a production studio, like a production house? Like he was a producer? No, 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 real Shark Wrangler. You know, I put him in the pens.
could you imagine that maybe that's why the doctor doesn't want to be with him? Could you imagine coming home from a long day of work and being like, man, it was so hard. I had so many reports to fill out. I'm so drained. What a tough day. And he just looks at you and goes, yeah, I had to wrangle sharks. Like,
I'm pulling license plates. Out of teeth.
yeah,
And look,
shark teeth.
I'm gonna keep it here and put it above the bed so we can remember it. Like, no, that's not
Right.
sexy. Nobody
How
wants
do
to see
you
that.
how do you
Nobody
ever
wants
like
that.
complain about your day to a guy who wrangles sharks for a living?
Right. And I mean, I hate to knock him down, but I mean, that's probably the lowest of the low. You know,
You're right. He probably is the lowest paid besides LL.
I mean, I don't know if you guys watch.
Wait a minute.
I don't know if you guys watch
the chef, come on.
Yellowstone. Do you guys watch Yellowstone at all?
No.
Yeah.
Should get into it, but I mean, there are very important people that run the ranch, and then there are the wranglers. They're basically making cattle move all over the place. I mean, these are from very different worlds, which maybe they could have played up a little bit more to make it feel more like the undeserving guy, or the not great guy. Great English here. The not great guy gets the great girl. That could have been something that could have been played up. I'm not just a wrangler, I'm trying to get my doctorate on the side. Sure, 7 years in already, and it's not going to happen. But
they could have gave more storyline to him. LL had a lot of storyline. I was actually writing down all his things. He's like a preacher, and he's a chef.
An alcoholic.
Yeah, he's an alcoholic.
Right.
They gave him so many things
He's
to
got
work
kids. He's got a wife at home. They fleshed out his character a lot.
They did.
And again, none of it mattered.
No.
None of it. Him drinking too much didn't play up at all. It was just I think they threw in.
Yeah.
I was going to look this up, but I wonder where this fits into LL Cool J's filmmaking career, because to me, he's the secret sauce in this in many respects. Yes. And I wonder if that led him to do other things, or if maybe he was already doing other things. The answer to that, I don't know. But certainly, if I'm a person watching that, I'd be like, well, the movie, but that LL guy, and I think maybe at the time you go into it maybe a bit unimpressed, because it's like, oh, he's a rapper. He wants to, be a movie star. We've seen, God rest his soul, DMX try to do the same. Didn't really work out as well. But LL's got some chops. He really does.
He really did bring this together. I think if you took him out, this movie falls completely apart.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is saying something. As the movie wraps up, after all is said and done, the remaining members of the team just decide to swim to the surface, which they could have done in the first place, but oh well. Using a fire extinguisher, they distract the shark, who thinks it's a person. Stupid fish. LL gets bit, but he stabs the shark in the eye with a cross like it's a vampire and gets away. Atop the water world set, I told you there was a reference coming. Yep. The three survivors await rescue, but realize the shark's plan was never to eat them, but to escape, which actually seems fair. McAllister becomes bait and gets eaten kind of for nothing, because Carter still has to dive in and grab the shark anyways. LL Cool J shoots Carter, but it's enough to blow up the shark. And as help arrives, I can't help but think I would trade them all to have Bird back. Deepest, bluest, my hat is like a shark's fin.
What a wonderful closing image, as they pull out as the music hits. My hat is and you just kind of see the bird float away, and it just gets picked up by a seagull or something.
It wasn't the right shark, but I was crossing my fingers when the shark blew up. That you would have seen Bird get out and fly,
great.
Like the bird was still alive.
It was alive. What was that, Jonah? Jonah from the Old Testament, who went in and just hung out for a couple days, read some books, and then he came out. Yeah.
Even if
wow.
if it wasn't the right shark, I would have been I would have cheered so loud if Bird flew out.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Just if a feather floated down, a la Forrest Gump. And just LL's little chef cookbook, he just picks it and then closes it like Forrest Gump, and then just walks away. That would have been great.
But speaking of that, before LL Cool J shoots the shark, he says, "This is for Skogs," which I felt like was kind of an FU to every other person that died along the way.
Like Bird.
Like Bird. Like, oh yeah, oh Jan. Like, what about Jan? What about Armless Doctor, whose name I never learned?
Janice from The Sopranos.
What about
I mean, all
Samuel
these
Jackson?
people.
What about Samuel Jackson?
The two helicopter pilots.
I
but when
wonder
you
if they
mentioned
still
it-
release the medication.
Pardon?
I wonder if they still release the medication. You said, okay.
Well, her research got lost in the water.
Eh.
Oh, I wanted to mention Jack. He says Deep Blue Sea. Thomas Jane says it.
I love it. I love it when they say the name of a movie in the movie.
It has to happen. It has to.
And it correct me if I'm wrong. LL got bit by a shark for a while. Yet they just prop him up, and he's just like, "Hey, what's up, guys? Bring me some sushi."
I thought for sure he was going to be. I thought he was going to be legless. I mean, that goes without saying. But I'm still just like, thank God. But I'll also say I've seen a few shark movies. Ride that if you weren't losing your legs potentially, what a fun whip around ride. I mean, they should open that up at some sort of park where maybe you go inside a mechanical shark. Your legs. Maybe there's fake blood that comes out. And then you just get whipped around, and you have a harness. It's still a thrill ride, but it lets you feel like what it would be like because it's just like. I mean, I've ridden with the dolphins before, and I couldn't get up on one. They said I was too heavy. Fucking, I had a baby dolphin. They didn't give me an adult dolphin.
That makes sense.
But they should have had. It's just almost comical because you're just sliding all over the place. But you're right. He was fine. Took a little snooze. Woke up perfect timing.
Ow! Ow!
I'm like, is this shark just have like baby teeth?
Yeah, I'm starting to waken up not to the rooster crowing, but I feel like a shark smashing into a metal chain link fence. It's time to get up and let's go start shooting a harpoon at people.
What I didn't get, too, is they made a big stink about him escaping. Like, no, we need to risk our lives and whatever we can to stop him from getting away. If the plan was always just to get out, if you're the shark, like, who cares? He's going to go swim around and eat fish. He's not locked up anymore. Like, who cares if he gets out? It's one shark. I mean, he's got a human brain. He doesn't have telepathic powers to control the ocean. It's just a smart shark that'll die in a few years of old age anyways.
I mean, my guess is that it's pretty far out in the water, although we did see the catamaran early on. But you're right. If anything, if it gets out, it's now becomes the world's problem. I mean, maybe you're going to get dragged as a professor, but let it go, man. Fight another day. I mean, go back, get a shower, kind of reboot the system, get the U.S. Navy, Coast Guard involved. I mean, as much as I like Harpoon Guy and a chef trying to save the day, there's probably some military out there that I think they do training on shark attacks, once every, I bet you the Coast Guard does. So I would have been like, look, the shark got out. We built the fences strong enough. I mean, hopefully all the data has been destroyed.
They seemed very understaffed for what they were doing.
Well, because they said that that was the weekend shift. And after watching it again, I laughed so hard. I guess Samuel L's character is getting onto the laboratory, and everyone else that worked the long week is exiting. And it looks like a party boat. I mean, it looked like they were just doing shots of tequila and just having a grand old time when it's like, dude, these are your coworkers that you've been stuck with for a week. You think would just be like deathly silent and just no fun at all. But I think one guy had like a party bong ready to go. I mean, it was just so unbelievable.
That makes a great point though, because they're like, it's a skeleton crew, and so I'm sure LL Cool J was like, so does that mean I can go home and see my family this weekend? Oh no, I'm not making my own sandwiches. You gotta stay, buddy.
Right. He might have normally just set up a little, 6 courses of meals, sandwich bags, but no, Samuel L's coming. I mean, so we got to have LL there. Wow.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the show, the movie. I enjoyed this. I thought it was it was a stupid movie, but it was a fun, silly getaway of a movie. If it was any longer, I probably would have been like, okay, this is rough. If it was a 2022 movie where all 2022 movies are like 4 hours long, then I'd say this was horrible. But it was a nice, quick hour and a half plus movie. Stupid but fun, and it was great to joke around about with you guys. Dan, you get the last word on the movie, so Andy, let me get your thoughts.
Yeah, it was. You know what? There was a lot of what I wanted, which was shark attacks, and I like how the sharks pretty much got everyone. I was definitely pro shark, and the sharks got the majority of the cast, and I think the people that lived, I think, deserved it. Usually, you know, at the end, sometimes you're like, I don't know if that person should have made it. Yeah, well, Bird should have made it for sure, but I'm glad LL made it, and Thomas Jane and his beautiful swimming technique did win. Did win the day. So yeah, it was fun. It was fun. Ridiculous, but fun.
Dan, any final thoughts on Deep Blue Sea?
Yeah, no, and I'll just piggyback off what Andy was saying. I mentioned reading a little bit of the Wikipedia. I hope that's not cheating, but so apparently in the original cut, Dr. Susan survives, but they played it for an audience, and the audience was so upset that the woman who caused all of this survived, and so the audience thought her as more of a villain. So within a 30-day period from when they ran this, for a closed audience, they reshot that whole scene, and they basically kind of spooned together. That's not the word. They
it worked.
They patchworked together several bits and pieces in order to make her die. And I'm sure when they wanted to get her back, it's like, look, you're so good. We need you for another scene. Not that everyone hates you so much we're going to kill you. But that's just to kind of jump on board with what you were saying, Andy. Everyone who should have survived did survive. And we were darn close to not having that, because she would have gone on. I mean, I don't know if it's her mother or a sick aunt. Someone in her family has Alzheimer's, and God bless her, she was going to end it. And I think she had a thing with animals that she, as we saw with her seductive ways with that shark, she was going to try to seduce another animal, whether it was a fawn or an alligator or a bunny.
A Wolverine, knowing her type.
She likes them very animalistic, as all animals are.
I wish.
So thank goodness. Although
I like my animals animalistic.
Quote of the day.
I do wish I could have heard that phone call. Hey, we have to reshoot some scenes. Everyone wants you to die.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, your character.
Right. Oh man, but yeah, no, the sharks were just so good, and maybe they don't get enough credit because, when you think of Jaws, and we didn't touch on it. I mean, Jaws casts such a big shadow. I mean, even just getting into the small niche world of shark films. I mean, there's the gold standard that is Jaws, and everything is always going to be compared to it. You can't be too close to it, or you're going to think it's a copy. I think that the director-producer did a good job of kind of tipping the hat a little bit to Jaws, but at the same rate making his own movie out of it by bringing more of a monster element into it. So I think that was one of the first successful shark movies since Jaws, which I think was 15 years. I don't know what Jaws was, 75, 99.
Something like that, yeah.
We'll call it 14 years.
Yeah. But yeah, so I enjoyed it. Now, before we go, we do have a quick little game, and it's really just a test for Andy. And we're going to see, Dan, if Andy's able to pull this off. We're going to see if he can do a 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon with this movie. If we can find one of the actors in this movie that was in that can connect to a Kevin Bacon movie in 6 moves. I feel like this one's going to be easy.
Yeah. I could have. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry. How's Andy doing this game? I mean, is he 50-50? Is he batting well over 500? I'm just curious going in.
He's doing very well, but he always brings it back to the same movie. So it's always sleepers.
Okay. Oh, wow. Because I've been awful at this game. I've been very bad my whole life. And so I like to see an expert in action here, and I might I'm really
you
gonna
might-
listen in.
You might be able to do one on your own too, because I'll do one that's not as obvious, and then you guys could do the really obvious one. So
Oh my
I
God,
did.
am I playing right now?
Well, no, I got
Yeah,
it down. So Michael Rappaport was in one of my favorite movies, True Romance, with Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt was in Sleepers with Kevin Bacon.
It's always sleepers.
But
every
Samuel
time.
L. Jackson, you could do Samuel L. Jackson easily.
Till the cows come home. Jeez.
He's in Jackie Brown with Robert De Niro.
Sleepers.
There you go.
It always goes to sleepers every time.
Sleepers
So,
got De Niro and Pitt. So
Andy, did you do it in less than 6 degrees?
Yeah.
yeah, I did it pretty quick.
So that's, I mean, it the smaller amount of connections, the better, or degrees. Am I right?
Yeah.
Or do you want to or do you really want to take us on a journey of showing us
no.
where?
No, I don't want
know,
to take you on a journey.
No.
No, you're just like,
Andy's
get
lazy.
in, get out.
Nothing about this show is the journey. It's all just let's see.
We want to get it done.
But that kind of wraps it up for us. Our next movie, as we continue on, we go into the 2000s. And the year 2000, we're reviewing Way of the Gun, which was one I liked when it came out. We'll see if it held up, because I don't think I've seen it since 2000. Then we go to 2001's Training Day and the 2002 classic Scorpion King. That'll be a very fun one to take a look back on as we see Hollywood's biggest star get his feet wet in acting. But that does it for us. You can find me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. You can find Andy Rossi. Where can they find you?
You can find me at Just Andy Rossi.
And Dan, where can the world follow you and keep up to date on the soon-to-be-released short film Personal Day?
Yep, you can follow me on Twitter at VOLLMAYER on fire.
Awesome. Well, that does.
Hat tip to NBA Jam. That's right.
Oh, that's where it came from. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't good at the game, but I mean, when they did something good in the game, they were on fire, and I try to do things good in the game, or a game of life. Doesn't always go that way, but yeah,
no
you were trying to wrap up. I apologize.
Hey, anytime we could get an NBA Jam reference, we'll take it.
Right.
Boom shakalaka.
I met the guy that did those voices. Boy, is he riding that still. Like 30 years ago, he's still doing personal appearances as the voice.
I would.
You just keep
would
saying
too.
it's on fire for no reason.
I would too. I just keep saying boom shakalaka.
Imagine if there was a real fire and he was yelling, "It's on fire!" and they're like, "Stop it already! Would you just give it up?" And no one leaves the movie theater.
Right.
And
even though there's smoke everywhere and like
I hate
fire's visual, they're just like, this guy.
this was the worst guy to have there to be the first one to see the flames. I hate to end it on a bummer here, but yeah, no one survived. No one survived that filming.
He's fine.
He's fine. Everyone else.
Yeah.
They're on fire.
He's the first one out. Right.
That does it for us. Thank you guys so much for joining along.
This was a blast.
fun
Thank
one.
you guys.
Dan, thanks for being on. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
That does it for us. And until next time, we'll see you guys next year.